Hello everyone and welcome back to the only series out there that combines the story of Magic the Gathering with the physical cards you can win. I'm Simon and this is Friday Night Lore. In today's FNL, let's continue to examine the developing story that is Battle for Zendikar. As of our previous video, we know that the heroes of Zendikar are all preparing for their times of reckoning. The planeswalking merfolk Kiora is sailing to the occupied city of Seagate, sea monsters in tow. Gideon is busy uniting everyone he can, forming the largest standing army on the plane, and Jace Beleren is searching for answers at the Eye of Ugin. But we also have the ongoing story of another influential character, Nissa. Rather than forming an army of her own, she's out looking for the very soul of Zendikar. The elf planeswalker lost her only companion, the spirit of the world, which granted her power and a faithful guardian taking the form of an elemental named Ashaya. When she was struck by a debilitating pain, Nissa lost her connection with the world, losing Ashaya in the process. After spending some time with Gideon, Nissa discovered that the soul of Zendikar might still live, but has retreated to an ancient and powerful place, a flower known as Khalni Heart. In this next chapter of her story, we'll truly see a test of Nissa's resolve. Nissa, after helping a group of trapped goblins, discovered that the soul of Zendikar too was trapped in hiding. The only place on the plane powerful enough to keep something like that safe would be the ancient flower Khalni Heart, for it was the epicenter of all the connecting ley lines of Zendikar. But Khalni Heart's resting place was far from her current location, deep in the caverns of Bala Ged, the once great continent home to the elves of Zendikar, now nothing more than a chalky wasteland. As much as it pained Nissa, she had to break a promise she had made to the world, as she planeswalked to her ruined home. When she arrived to Balaghed, she was expecting to see her lost friend, Ashaya, waiting with open arms. Foolish! What she found is what any sane person would have expected. Nothing. The Eldrazi which so threatened the world had devoured this once rich forest of all its living essence. All that remained of Nissa's once robust home was the chalky dust of Ulamog's wake. She began her trek across the devastated continent, reminiscing the days of her youth with her forward steps. Although the land was completely flattened, Nissa was still able to recognize key paths and routes she used to run as a young scout for her tribe. As she looked back at how she was in her younger years, that elf who was so foolhardy, selfish, brash, and irresponsible seemed so far from who she was now. In this white desert, Nissa found the signs of Eldrazi, encountering a small group of the monsters. To any others, this would be something alarming, but Nissa took this as a favorable sign. The Eldrazi only exist to feed. Once a land is devoured, there's nothing really left to keep the Eldrazi's interest. That means somewhere on Bala Ged, life remained. It had to be Khalni Heart. As she traveled, the signs became more and more evident. Life was present on Bala Ged. Near the mouth of a cavern, Nissa saw the first glimpse of returning green to the world. It was nothing more than some moss and fungus, but to Nissa, it may as well be Ashaya. This was her friend, her world, Zendikar. Returning after so much pain and misery, there was still hope. As she entered the cavern, she realized that this tunnel was once the entrance to a Surikar nesting site. The Surikar are large lizard creatures who are as ferocious as they are territorial. Nissa couldn't decide on what was better, the tunnel being clear, meaning the Surikar had all perished, or the Surikar living, waiting out the destruction, growing hungrier. She didn't place any bets, she just wandered into the deep cave. She pushed through the narrow tunnels until she came upon a large open cavern. This was it, Khalni Heart. But something wasn't right. There were strange signs of activity in the area, yet no one was present. The heart was surrounded by large hedrons linked together through the glow of their blue lights. This was done purposely by someone, but who? Not a Surikar, and certainly not an Eldrazi. She proceeded with caution. The hedrons were set together by something large, something strong enough to move the massive structures, They were placed on mounds of dirt, raked up by huge claws, leaving their marks in the soil. At first it appeared to be a complete circle around Khalni Heart, but after further inspection, Nissa came across a gap. Whatever this was, it wasn't finished. At the center of it all lied the powerful flower, the thing Nissa believed held the very soul of Zendikar, Khalni Heart. The roots of the plant were exposed, meaning it had been moved at some point. Nissa remembered the pain, this tearing feeling she experienced when she first lost her connection. The removing of this plant must have been that point when she lost Ashaya. The very thought of this was enough to drive Nissa straight through the Hedron wall, but as she did, a gust of hot wind blew past her as something slammed into her side, pushing her far away from the flower. As she refocused her vision, she looked up to see a demon standing over her. This demon stood over Nissa, claws sharp and fire burning in his eyes. It asked her who she was and who sent her, but Nissa did not answer. This was the source of all her pain and suffering, the pain of the world, the robber of her friend, and for that, Nissa hated this demon. She drew her sword, but the demon was faster, forcing the weapon from her hand. He asked if Nahiri had sent her. Nissa had no knowledge of anyone named Nahiri. She was here on her own accord. Nissa saw this monster as nothing more than another creature she would have hunted back when Bala Ged was rich with life. Although she was several times smaller than the demon, she still had the skills to bring down something of his size. As the demon rushed to pressure her into answering his questions, Nissa pivoted, forcing her feet into his chest and kicking him from off top of her. As the demon flapped its huge wings, he regained balance and rushed again, but this time, Nissa was quicker. She dove, retrieving her weapon and dodging the demon's strike, cutting into his leg as he passed, drawing blood. As their eyes met, the demon said that Nahiri must be sorely mistaken if she thinks she could stop him now. But again, Nissa had no idea what he was referring to. The demon, in a rage, flew faster than Nissa could ever anticipate, catching her off guard. The demon grabbed her by the neck, but rather than choking the elf, he began to drain her of her very essence. Nissa was dying. Soon, she would fade, then this demon would drain Zendikar itself. She had to tap into a power she had forced away for some time, her true power, the power of a planeswalker. She had promised to never again use this power, for it had harmed so many in her past, but now, she had no other choice. She channeled her energy into her sword, lifting it up in front of her, blocking her from the draining spell of the demon. The mixture of powers reacted, forcing Nissa and the demon away from one another. Finally, Nissa was freed. The demon was impressed by her power. Although she was dressed as a simple elf, he knew she was something more. He could smell it on her, sense it in her power. She was a planeswalker. They stared each other down. The demon kept bringing up this Nahiri character, believing she must have sent a planeswalker because she was too afraid to face him herself, stating that once his job was done here, he would wield more power than any single planeswalker had in a very long time. The power of an entire world would be his. Still, Nissa could not understand who this Nahiri figure was, finally revealing that she had no idea what the demon was talking about. The demon demanded to know why she was here if it wasn't ordered by Nahiri, to which Nissa told him that she was looking to save the soul of Zendikar. This threw the demon into a fit of laughter. Save Zendikar? That's a good one. In case she wasn't aware, Zendikar was already dying to the Eldrazi. There was nothing left to save. Nissa simply stated that she was here to save Zendikar and rushed towards the gap in the Hedron network. The demon saw this and blocked the entrance to Khalni Heart, but this wasn't Nissa's destination. She had tricked the demon. Bouncing off another Hedron, she leaped into the air and drew her sword. Summoning all the power she could spare, she struck the Hedron with as much force as she could muster. The demon hit Nissa away, but they watched together as the Hedron cracked and faltered, ruining the integrity of the entire network. As the cave began to shatter around them, the demon rushed to hold the Hedron together in a desperate attempt to secure his power. Nissa used this time to jump through the Hedrons and finally reached Khalni Heart. She touched the flower and everything returned to her. It was Zendikar, as she knew it. But the feeling didn't last. The demon had left the Hedron and grabbed her hand. No matter how much Nissa wanted this, there was no way she was getting it. The demon just wanted it more. He again started to drain her essence. If she wanted to live, this would be the time to planeswalk away. But Nissa was no longer that elf. She was here for a reason. She wasn't leaving without Zendikar. She made the decision. She transferred her power not to herself or her blade, but to Khalni Heart. As the energy filled the flower, it came to life. Petals once wilted sprung back with a green glow. The flower itself grew renewed roots and dug itself into the ground. Nissa had lost almost all of her life force, but she had done it. Khalni Heart was safe. The demon dropped Nissa and clawed at the ground, trying to force his way back to the heart, but it was gone. Since he was no longer holding the cracked hedron together, the cave started to shake and became unstable. It was ready to collapse. Nissa stood up and in classic action movie fashion, rebutted that if he wanted to live, now would be the time to planeswalk away. She reached for her bond and she found it. Zendikar and all its power returned to her. With the world at her command, Nissa drove a punch of pure stone and debris into the chest of the demon, causing him to crash against the cave's wall. The cave was coming down. As the interior crumbled, Nissa jumped from piece to falling piece. Her very bond with Zendikar guided her feet, allowing her to move with outstanding speed. She climbed out of this collapsing tomb, as the world itself buried the demon. As she forced herself up, she wasn't alone, not any longer. Ashaya had returned to her side. She and her friends stood triumphant in this desolated land. It was time to bring her refound power to Seagate to join Gideon's army for Zendikar. For Zendikar, the words which Nissa before felt had no meaning, now finally meant something to her. She would fight with Zendikar to save Zendikar. And that, my friends, is the story so far in Battle for Zendikar. Now, obviously this demon Nissa fought was Ob Nixilis, trying to reignite his lost planeswalker spark by consuming the power of Zendikar. If that's a tad bit confusing, then just go check out my video on Obby here or in the description below. But for now, my question for you is, who do you think would win in a straight up 1v1 fight? Nissa or Ob Nixilis? Assuming both are using their full planeswalker strength. Let me know in the comments below. As with all my Friday Night Lore episodes, a comment on this video enters you for a chance to win a card. Since I couldn't think of anything better, this week's giveaway will be a copy of Ob Nixilis Reignited. Again, to enter, all you have to do is be a subscriber to this channel and leave a comment on this video. At the end of the week, I'll choose a random comment and announce the winner at the end of next week's FNL video, so stay tuned to see if you've won. Last week, we went over the story of Gideon and his survivors of Sky Rock. And for that video, I was giving away a copy of Gideon, Ally of Zendikar. And so the winner of last week's FNL and new owner of this Gideon is RecRappin24. Congrats to the YouTube user RecRappin24. Please check your messages on YouTube. There you'll find a message from me with all the info I need to send you this card. Remember, this FNL and all my giveaways are brought to you by my sponsors over at abugames.com. abugames.com is a leading online store for all things MTG, and I really suggest you guys checking them out. You can also support this channel by following me not only on YouTube, but on all my social media and Patreon. Find links to those in the description below. As always guys, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.